Welcome, everyone. We're going to start and take a live look here at Naples, Florida. They are getting ready for Hurricane Irma right now. That storm is churning with top wind speeds around 130 miles an hour. We'll have the latest information on its track from our first alert weather team and what effects we can expect for our area during this special edition of Good Morning Suncoast starting right now.
Live from the ABC 7 studios, this is Good Morning Suncoast. We're here for you.
Welcome to this special edition of Good Morning Suncoast as Hurricane Irma moves closer to Florida and our area. I'm Adam Cellini.
And I'm Jacqueline Matter. It's Saturday, September 9th. Thank you for joining us this morning. Let's get straight to it. The latest from Hurricane Irma from John Scalzi.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is really turning into the storm we never wanted to see here on the Suncoast. No doubt about that. We're going to have to today take full advantage of what is probably going to be the last good day here on the Suncoast for possibly 36 hours. We'll have a fair amount of sunshine around today, fair amount of tranquil, placid weather so that you can get out there, complete those last-minute preparations that you need to do, and wrap it all up and button it up by this evening, because we expect, with the forecast track that is given as of 11 o'clock last night, which remains pretty much unchanged as of 5 a.m. this morning, except for a slightly weakened storm down toward Cuba, we expect that storm to bring us, at the very minimum, hurricane force winds, possibly as much as a Category 2 or 3 hurricane force wind. Storm surge is now an increasing problem as it shifts to the west, so we're looking at a 3 to 6 foot storm surge across the region, perhaps even higher if that track is a little further to the west. And we have more of the storm system staying over those warm Gulf waters longer. The forecast track right now looks like it'll hit somewhere around the vicinity of Naples, Fort Myers, and then move right inland and straight up the coast as it moves through parts of perhaps inland Hardee and DeSoto counties. So we'll watch for that. We're going to talk about the watches and warnings and the current conditions of the storm with Steve Newman. Then I'll give you a forecast on what to expect. Steve, what's it looking like?
John, almost all of Florida is under either a tornado, hurricane warning or a hurricane watch. You can see in the colors there. Certainly here on the Suncoast, with the predicted path to go right over top of us, it is a sure bet that we're going to have hurricane force winds, as you mentioned. Radar, you can see the center of the storm just off the coast of Cuba, and already coming into play are the spiraling bands moving over the Florida Keys and almost reaching Miami. Now, these later on could produce the threat of tornadoes on the right side of the storm as they swirl across Florida. That's not going to be an immediate impending threat to us, though. And we look at satellite, you can see a little eye forming their invisible light. We're starting to, this is an infrared image showing the center of the hurricane skirting those islands along the north coast of Cuba. That's inhibiting the inflow of moisture. The terrain, those mountains throughout Cuba are inhibiting the inflow, so I think that's why it weakened a little bit to only 130 mile an hour maximum sustained winds. But as it moves over the Florida Strait, pauses and decides when and how far it's going to turn to the right, that's when it'll start to straighten over the warm waters there. Also, look, with sunrise, we can see invisible light now. The image is showing the eye swirling right along the coast of Cuba. We're looking at wind gusts of sustained winds right now in the 30s from Key West to Key Largo. Miami still only from the northeast at 22 miles an hour. John, those are going to increase. Those wind speeds are going to increase dramatically in the next 12 to 24 hours.
Oh, indeed they are. They are looking at a possible Category 4 storm hitting them. You know, it was interesting looking at that visible satellite imagery there, Steve. It kind of appeared as though we might even have a little bit of an expanding eye wall, which will happen with these storms as they become weaker. And it has become slightly weaker with 130 mile an hour winds. Across our region, the weather is pretty nice right now. There it is. Category 4 storm, 130 mile an hour winds moving to the west at about 12, skirting the coast of Cuba. What will happen will be that motion should continue for another 12 to 24 hours, and then the forward motion basically halt as it starts to come under the influence of a trough of low pressure to the north. When that happens, when we start to see that forward motion stop, we'll have a better idea of the eventual track of the storm, because that will signal the beginning of that northward motion that will eventually put it into the state of Florida. So at about 2 a.m. this morning, we'll start to watch that system slow down, start to move to the north and approach the coastline of Florida. Then at Sunday evening, move pretty close through the Florida Keys and close to the west coast Florida coastline to the south part of the state. And then probably our worst weather occurring starting when you wake up Sunday morning and continuing on through Monday afternoon. I think this will be a nighttime storm for us, and some of the strongest winds will occur in the middle of the night, Sunday night into Monday morning. Then once the system moves to the north, we got another problem that we're going to have to worry about, and that will be the wind shift that will occur to an onshore westerly flow. With that will come the potential for some storm surge, and the storm surge that we were talking about includes perhaps as much as 6 feet of storm inundation above ground level along barrier coastal islands, and also upstream of areas like Peace River and Myakka River as they empty out into Charlotte Harbor. Wind speeds across the region, guarantee you we'll see tropical storm force, and I'm pretty certain we'll see some hurricane force winds here as well. Gusts potentially as high as 140 miles per hour with the current track. Back to you.
All right, thank you so much, John. We will check back in with you shortly. For now, mandatory evacuations in Sarasota County remain limited to those low-lying areas, the islands, and mobile home residents. Yeah, Governor Rick Scott is set to make an appearance soon right here on the Suncoast for a hurricane briefing alongside local emergency personnel. ABC 7's Bobeth Yates joins us live from the Sarasota County Emergency Operations Center with more on the governor's visit in just a few minutes here. Bobeth.
Yes, we just were told that the governor just pulled up, so we are expecting him to speak any moment now. What we expect him to say, that's the more interesting part. We are hearing that that emergency evacuation, of course, is in effect for zones A, those in the barrier islands, and those who are in mobile homes. And we're expecting the governor to tell us if you do not evacuate by 8 p.m. tonight, there's not much they can do until after the storm, because first responders will not be able to come out and help you. So they're telling you to bunker down. If you are still in the area, bunker down, because after 8 p.m. it will be too late to actually come out. Now, again, evacuations have been ordered for Zone A's, barrier islands, and those in mobile homes, and they're asking people to be out by 8 p.m. In addition to that, we're told that right now 6 new shelters are going to go online, 3 in North County, 3 in South County. The details of those locations have not been disclosed yet because they don't want people to go to them early. And we've also heard a lot about people trying to call to get more information from the county. Now, county officials say be patient. They understand that the phones are ringing and it's hard for them to get to everyone, but they're asking you to just be patient because they do have staff on hand answering those phone calls. And they're advising you, if you can't get an answer right away, either continue to call or you can go on their website. They're updating that with up-to-minute information. Again, here at the EOC where Governor Scott just pulled up, he's expected to speak any moment now and to give us a briefing of what we can expect from this hurricane and how officials will be responding. We'll give you more information and come back as soon as he comes up. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Bobeth, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more from you throughout the morning. Now let's take a look at our first alert traffic for those thinking about getting on the roadways this morning. The traffic to the interstate on State Road 70 and State Road 64 looking clear, along with the interstate moving north-south up there in Manatee County, moving down into Sarasota County. Also clear on the interstate there, Fruitville Road, Clark Road, good paths to the highway for you right now there in Sarasota. And in South Sarasota County, it doesn't show up there on the map, but I-75 is open and traffic is moving along there, along with US 41, Tamiami Trail also moving well. Well, we discussed power outages, yes. And John Scalzi was up here earlier this morning saying it's almost a near certainty the way things are looking now. So Florida Power and Light is actually preparing for that hurricane's arrival here on the Suncoast. That's right. Dozens of line trucks are staged at the Sarasota County Fairgrounds, ready to begin the repair process once the storm clears the area. The company is warning customers to be prepared to lose power during the hurricane.
This is the storm of the likes we have not seen before, not only here in the electric industry in Florida Power and Light, throughout Sarasota, throughout all of Florida. So we don't really know exactly what's going to happen, but we do anticipate that outages will occur, that they will be probably lengthy. In addition, instead of just potentially restoring service, we actually believe that we will probably be rebuilding out parts of our system.
FPL says customers can report outages using the company's mobile app, and they'll attempt to restore power when wind speeds are less than 35 miles per hour. We also have a link to their website and app on our website, mysuncoast.com. And the Suncoast medical community is doing what it can to provide emergency services during this historic storm. Sarasota Memorial's main hospital, ER and trauma center, and its emergency room in Northport will be operating 24 hours a day with a full staff. However, several of the hospital's urgent care facilities have closed or will close for the storm, including the one in St. Armand's, which closed yesterday. Others will close at 4 p.m. on Saturday and remain closed on Sunday. Other outpatient services will be closed through Monday, and the hospital is also postponing all non-urgent elective surgeries through at least Monday. Meanwhile, Manatee Memorial Hospital will be closing because the facility is in Zone A under a mandatory evacuation. The hospital is working to move most of its patients to Lakewood Ranch Medical Center. The emergency room is closed, and the hospital expects to shut down by Saturday evening, this evening, until the storm passes. And there will also not be any mail delivery today on the Suncoast. The U.S. Postal Service has indefinitely suspended all operations. If you have any questions, you can contact them at 1-800-274-8777. We also have a link to their website on mysuncoast.com.
And a quick update I just wanted to mention, there's a difference between flood zone A and evacuation level A for Manatee County.
Yes.
If there was some confusion about that earlier in the day, we apologize, but it's evacuation level A in Manatee County specifically that has those evacuations right now. John, this is why we prepare.
Oh,
you never know what these are going to do.
We've been talking all week long, Jacqueline, as you know, on the morning show about what we should do each and every day. And today is your last day before the bad weather approaches. So I think a good thing to do would be for today to finish all those outdoor preparations, police the outside of your house, make sure any loose objects are brought in that could become missiles and damage structures or break your windows.
I have a quick question about that. I had a viewer ask me in our break. She has 50-pound sandbags, some heavier garden plants outside in her yard, and she's wondering if winds will be strong enough to pick those up or if she should bring them inside.
Listen, you just never know what's going to happen with something like that. If you have a 50-pound ceramic pot filled with a plant and soil, that thing could tip over, it could break, and then you've got missile objects.
Okay.
So I brought all my plants in.
Right.
And believe me, it was hard work. I get it. But I brought all my plants in. We now have frogs in the house.
Okay. And some of those lizards, of course.
Police the outside of the house yesterday, and I highly recommend doing that. You know, bird baths, bird feeders, all that kind of stuff. That should be coming in.
Good to know.
Also today, I think very important to identify which room in your house is going to be your safe room in the event that this storm is, in the worst case scenario, stronger, whatever, and which room you would go to in the event that a window breaks or your house is in some way compromised. What room is the strongest room of your house? It should be an interior room. Should be without windows. I know a lot of people have a tough time finding a room in their house that doesn't have windows, but try to minimize your glass exposure. And oftentimes a bathroom is a good choice, or a closet is a good choice for that sort of thing. Absolutely. That's where you'd go in the event of a problem. And again, I know as I say this, a lot of people get nervous, but also, if you have some kind of bicycle helmet or something like that, a football helmet, whatever, you want to throw that in the safe room as well, because you would want to be wearing that if you did need to go into that room. We're a long way from that point yet. Let me stress that. But I'm trying to get you to do as many things as you can now so you can just calmly ride through this storm as calmly as we all can when the time comes.
And speaking of a long way, people want to know exactly how this storm is going to hit us, but we spoke before the show. Still hard to tell at this point exactly what the path towards our area is?
Let me see how I can describe this. This is the thing. Imagine the state of Florida, right? And here's the track of the storm. Starts down here, goes up this way, okay? If you can imagine even a little 50-degree shift or a 50-mile shift in the location of the storm down here has a huge impact on the eventual track when it gets up here. And that's exactly what we're looking at now, is the position of that storm when it starts to make that northerly turn. This storm certainly could stay far enough offshore that the core of the strong winds, you know, remains further offshore, and in that case, we would of course have a storm surge problem to deal with, but the strongest winds would remain offshore.
And not outside the realm of possibility.
Not outside the realm of possibility. The cone is still plenty wide for that to happen. So, you know, that is still a possibility, and that's why we're waiting to watch. But right now we're expecting the worst. By the way, storm evacuation zones are based on water inundation. And right now the storm surge maps that we have are looking about 3 to 5 feet, with some places coming in at 6 feet storm inundation. That is water above ground level. So it is important for you to know what your evacuation zone is. There's a Sarasota County map as well. We have these on our website, I believe, mysuncoast.com, so you can go on there if you can't get the website for these particular county evacuation. Type your address, evacuation sites working. I know they're very slow right now. A lot of people trying to get on them.
Right.
And as a reminder, you know, those zones, Zone A is the only one under mandatory evacuation right now for Sarasota and Manatee counties.
That said, there's also a mandatory evacuation, I believe, for all special needs who are registered and for mobile home.
Well, there you go. You're right, mobile home, but the Emergency Operations Center haven't been open that long, so
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to see other areas, at least a voluntary evacuation ordered for other zones. I would say anybody who lives close to a barrier island, on a barrier island, close to a barrier island, or from 41 toward the coastline, have your bag packed, be prepared to go if the order is given right now. If you live along the Myakka River, the Peace River, Philippi Creek, any of those inland tributaries, you should be prepared. The Little Manatee, you should be prepared to go.
And lots of people wondering if they should evacuate, but we've talked a little bit about letting those zones go zone by zone because the roads will get clogged. Can you discuss that a little bit more?
Absolutely critical. We've gotten reports, especially as you get closer to the Florida border, of some clogged roadways, some gas shortages, things like that. So if you were planning, if you were going to definitely leave town, if that was in your mind and couldn't convince you otherwise, you'd need to go now. Otherwise, stay in your location, wait for the evacuation order. If you don't feel like you're in a shuttered building that is secure, then go to one of the area evacuation shelters.
Any last-minute tips you have for people?
Got some numbers for you to call if there are issues that you have questions about. Just be patient. These folks are swamped right now, and so it may take you a little bit while to get your phone call answered. You'll be probably put into a queue, which will be answered in your turn. So don't, if you've been on hold a little while, hang up and call back, because you'll lose your place. So those are the numbers on your screen. Again, we'll have those on our website.
And we've certainly been receiving plenty of calls too. We're directing you to a lot of those numbers with many of your questions as well. But John, thank you for expressing the patience aspect of it, especially since at Sarasota County, Governor Scott is expected to visit here soon and give an update soon. So they are certainly busy over there. We're actually going to go live out there now, or excuse me, we are waiting on Governor Scott to take the podium there in Sarasota County at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sure they're having consultations right now with the Hurricane Center, group emergency management meetings. They just came down from one, and I'm sure there's some updated information there that they'll be considering as they make their determination about whether to have a few more evacuations required or not. But if you'd like to get the latest information on what's going on with the storm, always available at mysuncoast.com, always available on our social media pages. And I believe Steve Newman is in the Weather Center right now with a update on the current conditions. Is that correct?
That is correct. I didn't know we were going to come up, but here we are. Most of Florida is under a hurricane warning or watch, as you can see from the colors and the Keys to the right. The storm is still down along the coast of Cuba and just almost out of radar range from Key West and Miami radar. And it will be approaching the Keys later on, as John just mentioned. It's going to move over warmer waters, and where and when it turns is going to be key to exactly how it hits Florida, but right now the path looks like it's going to go into Naples. Looking at satellite, you can see the eye right along the northern coast of Cuba, those islands, some of them resort islands as well, that's weakening the storm. I think that's why the winds drop down to about 130 miles an hour. But once it moves over the warmer water, we're going to see an explosion in development again, possibly Category 4 again as it moves inland. toward Naples. That's the latest official track. Currently, we're seeing winds 30 miles an hour on average up and down the Keys, with higher gusts up to 45. And in the middle of the state, it looks like we have 15 mile an hour at Fort Myers, Naples 19. But John, these are really going to explode as we move in the next 24 hours.
I think it might be appropriate right now to just talk about the time frame of a little bit of when we expect to see that occur. Hello, expect to see that occur. 130 mile an hour winds right now is the latest observation. We'll be having another full observation as well as an updated forecast track coming out at 11. As of 8 a.m., its movement to the west still continues. A due westward motion is a good thing. It had been more of a northwest motion, west-northwest. So a due west motion may, and you don't wish ill on anybody, but the fact of the matter is that for us, for our concerns, if the center of the storm goes over land in Cuba, why that would certainly help the possibilities of it weakening further, and that would be a good thing. Some minor weakening, even if it doesn't go over land, is still anticipated just because of the interaction with the land and the drawing in of drier air from land into the circulation of the system. So that is anticipated. But as the storm reemerges out into the warmer, less sheared environment of the waters just to the south of the state of Florida, it is forecast to once again probably gain some speed and intensity. Right now, forecast is a 150 mile an hour storm occurring Sunday night as it closes in on the Florida Keys. So we'll be watching with great interest when that forward motion slows to a stop, most likely, becomes stationary, and then starts lifting to the north. As it starts lifting to the north, that will be key in knowing where it will make landfall on the Florida west coast, if it stays out in Gulf waters a little bit longer, exactly what the forecast trend will be. Then we will watch conditions start to deteriorate. When you wake up tomorrow morning, you will notice an increase in the winds out there. You will notice possibly tropical storm force winds, minor tropical storm force winds, 39, 40 mile per hour winds, not out of the realm of possibility by tomorrow morning. Then, as we progress into the afternoon and evening particularly, you'll start to notice a rapid increase in the wind speeds and the amount of rain showers. They'll come in bands as the spiral inflow bands of showers and thunderstorms around the system begin to go across our area. And the amount of rainfall that we get will increase markedly. You're not going to want to be on the roads tomorrow. You're going to want to be hunkered down by tomorrow. And then as we head into tomorrow evening, the winds are just going to be howling. It's going to be one of those things where the thunderstorms come by in waves, vertical rain, heavy, heavy wind, howling through the rafters of your house possibly. So for a lot of folks who have never been through that before, it's going to be kind of a scary situation. That's why I want everything to be done today so that we'll all work through this together tomorrow. And we will be with you right straight through the entire event and be showing you where the core of the strong winds are. The good thing is that now, because this is getting close to Cuba, we can track this system on our radars. So as we watch it get closer to the state of Florida, we'll have excellent knowledge of where the strongest wind core will be and how soon it will arrive for you individually, and what kind of tornado threat there may be. There will be a tornado threat. Then as Category 3 starts to lift northward, heading up toward the Florida border, we'll start to see the flow around this storm begin to come from an onshore direction. That's when we're going to have our storm surge issues, and when we're going to possibly see an inundation of 6 foot above ground level in some locations along the coastline. Siesta Key, Holmes Beach, areas that are concave in shape where the water will flow in and kind of collect. That's where you're going to have issues. The mouth of Charlotte Harbor, up around Rotunda, in through those areas just upstream of the Peace River and the Myakka River are going to see some significant coastal flooding, I think. You have a storm surge warning up for the area all along the coastline, including Charlotte Harbor. So then as it lifts north and those waters start to recede, then we'll start the cleanup process. But We'll be talking about that in length later on. Our forecast for tropical storm force winds. You'll remember it was just a couple of days ago we were looking at this map. And we were in the 30 to 40 percentile chance of seeing tropical storm force winds around here. Well, as we continued to see that shift of the storm to the west, look what's happened to our tropical storm possibilities. They have gone to 100%. So we can expect that. We can expect to see the winds very breezy, breezier than you normally would ever get with a thunderstorm. 40, 50, 60, 70 eventually mile-per-hour winds. What about hurricane force winds? Well, if you look at the probability graphics of hurricane force winds, that too has gone up, given the track of this storm lifting right straight northward. Lakewood Ranch, you're going to see some very strong winds, perhaps some wind gusts in excess of 120 to 140 miles per hour. You're going to see some really strong winds during the overnight dark period of Sunday into Monday. And sustained winds right now could be as high as a Category 2 or 3. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Right now, planners are going with about a 80 mile per hour wind to a 120 mile per hour wind, somewhere in there, 119 mile per hour. And of course, exactly when those winds become onshore and how strong the winds are at that time will greatly impact the storm surge along our coastline. Rainfall, that's going to be a huge issue as well. Earlier in the week, we were looking at smaller rainfall totals because the storm was going to be impacting the West Coast now more. But look what's happened. We've got a flip-flop. Now there is a lesser likelihood of heavy rainfall on the East Coast and a better chance of heavier rainfall across our coast. Now you remember what a 15, 16, 18, 20-inch rainfall did to us a few weeks back. Well, we could certainly easily get another 6 to 10 inches of rainfall with this storm. And of course, these rainfall probabilities are very preliminary at this point. So it could even be higher, given the track of the storm. Whether or not its motion slows or speeds up, all of those things have variables. So it is certainly likely that we will see some down the road, some river flooding, even though rivers are forecast right now to recede over the next couple of days. Those forecasts are going to change when we start to see some of this heavier rainfall come our way. So those are the main threats. Oh, let's add another one. With those showers and thunderstorm bands that come through, you'll often see a situation where, because the winds are coming in off water, you know, what you're going to get are some strong winds all of a sudden meeting up with land that slow the winds at the surface, while the upper level winds are still streaming right by without the effect of that surface from the ground. And so consequently what that does is kind of set up a pinwheel effect in the atmosphere. That's picked up by the updrafts of the thunderstorm, and tornadoes become a risk. That's a significant risk for us as well as we head into Sunday particularly, but also Sunday night into Monday as well. So again, something else that we'll have to keep an eye on, and luckily, because by that time the eye will be close to us, we'll be able to track that with radar pretty accurately. So the forecast for us also has to include some significant power outage risk. And I think the power outages that we will see will probably, for some of us, be lasting not just days, but there could be week-long power outages in many locations, even on the Sun Coast here. So those are kind of some of the things that we'll be looking at, and we'll continue to refine and detail this forecast as time goes on. Back to you guys.
All right, John, thank you very much. And Jacqueline, it's, what, 2 days ago, I think we were waking up Thursday morning and thought this was going up more to the spine of the state, and here we are, just a couple of days, and you know, that really has shifted towards our area. I know we saw massive evacuations on the west coast of Florida, and now here we are on the east coast, rather, and now we are on the west coast. And as John has told us again and again, be prepared and expect the worst. You never know what is going to happen. Yeah, absolutely, and get ready to move. And if you are considering moving, you may want to rethink calling an airport. We have a quick update on some of the information. Sarasota's airport, SRQ, will close to all air traffic tonight at 8 p.m., and I can only imagine what it costs to get a ticket at this point. All flights Sunday are canceled as well. Tampa International Airport will also be closed to all flights tonight at 8 o'clock, and the St. Pete Clearwater International Airport closed yesterday at 11 in the morning due to a mandatory evacuation up there in Pinellas County.
All right, John, let's take a quick look at what are some of those last-minute things that people can be doing right now to prepare for Irma's arrival.
You know, I think staying abroad, make sure, you know, we've talked about a lot of things, but one thing we haven't talked about is make sure you have a continuing communication source with you. Make sure your cell phone is charged. Oftentimes after the storm, you'll find it difficult to make phone calls, but these cell towers have been proven in other storms to handle text messaging very well. So you want to do that. Also, if you haven't already done so, as part of your personal plan, you'll probably want to get together with some of your family members who maybe live out of state and maybe live out of the path of this storm, and designate them as the kingpin point for communication should some of you or your family members become separated in evacuations or whatever. So if that happened and cell phones went down and you couldn't get a message to them, you could always get a message to that third-party family member who is out of danger.
Absolutely, and we talked a little bit about supplies earlier this morning, and if you need last-minute supplies, what you can do. Best recommendation at this point is to call ahead and maybe stay off the roads. I think that was something we discussed. Yeah,
we talked about that earlier. You know, what we don't want to see are the roads getting clogged in case there are further evacuations ordered. We want the roads to be freely flowing to evacuation shelters. So what we don't need are a significant portion of the roads clogged by last-minute shoppers. So if you think there's something you need, why don't you just call ahead and make sure that the store, your destination, where you are going, has it, so that you don't just spend a lot of time kind of roaming the area.
Certainly. Exactly. And we had Sandy, a viewer, who messaged us, and she wants to know, how long will the hurricane force winds last in our area?
You know, it's not going to be a short duration thing. These hurricane force winds that start during the overnight tomorrow night, they could last, 12 hours. It could last 12 hours, with the strongest peak wind core lasting perhaps as much as 4 hours or so. So it's going to be a strong event. Also, what you may notice, depending on the track of the storm, depending on whether the eye comes right over us, and I'm not saying it will yet, because as we mentioned earlier, there's still some very big question marks in exactly the eventual track of the storm. But a lot of people will recognize, who have been through these storms, that the winds will die down for a time if the eye comes over you. And at that point, you'll think everything is quiet and nice, and it's not, because you'll get hit by the backside of the eye. So the important thing is that after this event is over, you remember to stay indoors and not leave your sheltered zone until you have been told to do so by authorities. There's probably going to be lots of power lines down, and that is often a dangerous situation. There's going to be some very heavy rains that could produce some local street flooding, and power lines could be down in those flooded areas. Also, never, ever, ever drive over flooded areas. We lost 2 people during the last storm because they drove into water that was deeper than they realized. So, turn around, don't drown is the name of the game there.
All right, thank you so much, John. Let's go live now to Sarasota County EOC, where Governor Rick Scott is expected to speak. Actually, we are going to Manatee County, where we find Stephanie Roberts.
Hello, everyone. We are inside the Manatee Emergency Operations Center, and as you can see behind me, it is packed. County employees have been streaming in here all morning long. There's representatives from fire, utility, energy, transportation, medical, and shelters. Now, they had a briefing with each other earlier this morning. We are awaiting a media briefing within the next hour, but a couple of pieces of information came out already this morning. Manatee Hospital has been primarily evacuated, and any patients that remain will be taken to other area hospitals, and that of course is because Manatee County is on a flood zone, a mandatory evacuation. They want anybody to know that if you decide to stay put, once those winds reach 45 miles per hour, there will be no one out coming to help you. So we were definitely going to have to pay attention to our evacuation zones. I believe now we're going to go to Sarasota County, or we're going back to the studios now, where I know we're still waiting for Governor Scott to speak. Jacqueline, Adam?
All right, thank you very much, Stephanie, and thank you for the update on the information. So we'll get some more information soon from Manatee County, hopefully. And as we were kind of discussing, we are expecting some updates. It may be, more evacuations, but you definitely need to, stand by. Actually, we are going to go over to Sarasota County. Governor Scott is at the podium with his update.
I just had a briefing with emergency management officials here in Sarasota County. The storm's here. Hurricane Irma is now impacting our state. Southeast Florida is already experiencing tropical storm force winds, and nearly 25,000 people have already lost power. Hurricane Irma is beginning to batter the Florida Keys with dangerous winds and continues to remain a catastrophic and life-threatening Category 4 storm with winds of 130 miles per hour. This is a deadly storm, and our state has never seen anything like it. Millions of Floridians will see major hurricane impacts with deadly storm surge and life-threatening winds. The threat of significant storm surge flooding along the entire west coast of Florida has increased. And 6 to 12 feet, think about that, 6 to 12 feet of impacts above ground level is now probable. 6 to 12 feet, this will cover your house. If you've ever watched how storm surge works, it flows in fast, very fast, then it flows out. You will not survive all this storm surge. This is a life-threatening situation. If you have been ordered to evacuate, you need to leave now. Do not wait. Evacuate. Not tonight, not in an hour. You need to go right now. If you're in an evacuation zone, leave. Evacuations are in place across the state. More than 5.6 million Floridians have been ordered to evacuate. You need to listen to local evacuation orders. If you live in an evacuation zone in southwest Florida, you need to be on the road by noon or find the nearest shelter to avoid life-threatening weather. It's going to go faster than you are. These winds are coming. If you're in this area and you're planning to leave and have not done so by noon, do not get on the road. If you're on the west coast trying to go north, I mean, you're going to have a hard time getting out. Just remember this, once the storm starts, law enforcement cannot save you. I'm a dad, I'm a grandfather. I love my family more than anything. I cannot imagine life without them. Do not put your life or your family's life at risk. Right now is the time to do the right thing for you, yourself, and your family. School buses are aiding in evacuations. Please take advantage of this service. If you need to leave and for whatever reason you're unable to leave and you need help, whether it's fuel, whatever the issue is, call 1-800-342-3557 and we will do everything possible to get you out. 1-800-342-3557. Protecting life is our absolute top priority. There will be no resource or expense spared to protect life. Our goal is to protect every person in this state's life. I urge everyone to check on your neighbors, your family, and your friends. If you know somebody who is not evacuating and should, contact them and make sure they have a plan to get out. We are being very aggressive in our preparation for this storm, and my hope is every Floridian should take this seriously and be aggressive to protect their family. Your house can be replaced, your possessions can be replaced, your life cannot be replaced, and your family cannot be replaced. Shelters. We have been working with counties to ensure there are enough shelters. Currently, there are more than 260 shelters open across the state in every county in the state. At least 70 more shelters are opening today. More than 50,000 Floridians have taken shelter, and there's still room for more. If you have a building, emergency individuals ask you to open a shelter, please comply. It's going to save people's lives. This is so important to families seeking safety. Everyone in Florida needs to find a safe place to go. Traffic. We still see some traffic, but overall evacuation routes are moving. Evacuations are not meant to be convenient. They're meant to be safe. I'm glad so many are taking this seriously and driving to a safe place. But if you don't need to be on the road, don't be on the road. We increased the number of troopers on Florida roadways to continue moving traffic along. You can check real-time traffic information evacuation routes at fl511.com. You don't have to evacuate out of the state. You don't have to evacuate even out of your county. You don't have to go hundreds of miles. We have shelters in every county other than Monroe, and those have evacuated to Miami-Dade. So shelters are available in every county. Again, if there's any reason you can't get out, any reason at all, fuel, whatever it is, 800-342-3557. We will do everything we can, but we can't do it once the storm starts. Fuel. We're working aggressively to keep our gas stations open and filled. but this won't last much longer because it's going to be unsafe to be on the roads. We're doing everything we can to get as much fuel into the state as we can. While all the fuel ports in Florida are now closed for safety as Irma impacts our state, so our ports are closed, so we're not getting any more tankers in. Following the storm, state troopers will resume escorting fuel supply trucks directly to gas stations in your community. So we'll get, after the storm, we'll get, as soon as we can get fuel trucks moving, we'll do it again. I waived Florida's motor vehicle import tax for 5 days to help bring more fuel to our state for storm response and recovery. We all know fuel is important, and we're going to absolutely devote every state resource we can to get the fuel here. Law enforcement. Florida's prepared. We have great first responders. We have great law enforcement. Every single Florida Guardsman has already been deployed that we can deploy, and they're prepared to respond to this storm. We have so many members of law enforcement and our Guardsmen that are putting their lives at risk to help Floridians get to a safe place, and they will not stop until it's no longer safe for them. I can't thank them enough. Utilities. Our providers are actively pre-positioning resources throughout the state and in neighboring states. We know how important power is, and we're going to be very aggressive at getting power back on. I want to be clear. We are under a state of emergency. Employees who perform vital services, including healthcare staff, we need you to be there to help your community. We need 1,000 volunteer nurses to help at our special needs shelters. If you can volunteer, let me give you a website. BPRCHD preparedness at flhealth.gov. Again, we need more nurses. All available nurses, if you'll please respond to BPRCHD preparedness at flgov or flhealth.gov. We've already received thousands of replies. This is great news, and we're actively working with all of these individuals to support this need. So many people across this country have called to offer their prayers and support. I want to thank the governors of other states that provided every resource we've asked for. I know the entire country is behind us. I've been talking to the White House almost every day. I've talked to President Trump. He has promised all federal resources. I talked to Brock Long, who runs FEMA, this morning, and he's guaranteed us all federal resources. We have the country's best first responders right here in Florida. But if you're in an evacuation zone, I hope you will go right this minute. Get to a safe place. This is a catastrophic storm. We've never seen this before. It's bigger than our state. Florida is tough. Florida is resilient. Florida is unbreakable. Let's all stay together and help each other. We are an amazing melting pot of wonderful people. This is a great state, and we're going to come out of this very strong. Este huracán es muy peligroso. Su vida es lo más importante. Cada familia debe de tener un plan. Por favor, salgan si están en zona de evacuación. Para más información, por favor, llamen al 1-800-342-3557. Mi prioridad es que todos turistas.
All right, thank you very much. That was Governor Scott with his update from Sarasota County. We have Stephanie Roberts standing by in Manatee County this morning. She is at the Emergency Operations Center up there. She's been giving us updates throughout the morning.
Let's go over some of those important information that Governor Rick Scott just gave us. He did say if you are in Southwest Florida, if you are not out by noon, you either need to find shelter or hunker down. You need to be out by noon if you're looking to get out of here. So
that's
need to
important
keep
information.
That, yeah,
if you're getting on the roadways. He said they are clear now, but those in this part of the state thinking about evacuating.
Yes, also the fuel ports are looking to be closed. No more tankers will be going to the fuel ports. That is because they are unsafe. It's unsafe to get to that area once the storm passes. They will try to get fuel delivered as quickly as possible, so if you are looking for gas to get out of the area, you need to go fill up right now.
Absolutely, and those trucks won't be moving until after the storm rolls through. Yeah. So ports are closed, maybe trucks after moving gas around the state, but that is the situation right now. Some more statistics from Governor Scott. He's saying 70 shelters, I believe, around that number open across the state. About 50,000 people already in some of those shelters that have been evacuated from their homes.
That's outstanding. Also, there is a supply shortage of certain areas. ATMs across Florida out of cash as people are stocking up in case power outages do happen. That would make credit card transactions virtually impossible.
Yeah, many gas stations also closed across the state. We were just speaking about gas. Those that were open had waits for up to half an hour for gas. People looking for wood to board up windows as well. Propane and generators also high up on that supply list, but many stores were sold out.
We have nothing in stock for what they want.
And what do they want?
They want Tapcons, they want paneling, generators, propane.
And here on the Sun Coast, we are continuing to receive information from you, the viewers, about supplies running low. We spoke earlier about if you do have some last-minute supplies, maybe call ahead to some of these stores. We aren't sure which are open right now, which have staff, which have supplies, but for the sake of staying off the roads, use that phone while we still have phone service and call ahead.
And for the sake of saving your own gas as well. I know Walgreens will have closures until Monday at 10 a.m., so any Walgreens stores, if you're looking to fill up any prescriptions, you might want to try and find an alternative pharmacy. Also, Publix will be closing stores in Manatee County starting at 8 p.m. tonight as well. So definitely some good information. If you are looking to get some supplies, you might want to look elsewhere.
All right. Well, I believe we do have Stephanie Roberts, we mentioned, standing by. Oh, excuse me. Here is a look at Manatee County for their press update this morning.
No, I'm waiting on folks, sorry. Okay.
Well, while we do wait for them to be prepared there, I want to give you guys a number that is so important. It's 1-800-342-3557. That number is the state transportation hotline number. If you are looking to evacuate and you don't have the means to get out of your house and you want to leave, you can call that number. The state will come help you to evacuate if you feel unsafe in your home. That number again, 1-800-342-3557.
All right, and straight back out to Manatee County, where I believe they are now ready for that press briefing.
Voluntary evacuation of our level B hurricane evacuation level in coordination with Sarasota County and their counties to our south. The message today is evacuate now. This is the day. These next few hours is where you need to absolutely finalize where you will be when the tropical storm force winds arrive. Absolutely seek shelter now. Keep in mind that we will not be able to respond to you once these winds arrive. At 45-mile-an-hour winds, emergency services will not be able to reach you. Absolutely go to those open shelters now. We're going to provide you a list of those open shelters along with their capacity after this conference. With this storm, you understand the very serious impacts that we are going to face. High winds, storm surge, and heavy rains. We will be looking at weeks without electricity, possibility of no phones or internet. Evacuate to a safe area now. I'll be able to answer any weather questions afterwards, but I do want to talk about some other things that are going on. I'm going to introduce our Acting County Commissioner Chair, Robin DeSabatino.
Thank you, Sherilyn. I'm Robin DeSabatino, Acting Chair of the Board of County Commissioners. I'm speaking on behalf of my other 6 commissioners who are out there helping their neighbors and residents. This is very, very serious. We want you all to seek shelter. A lot of more schools are opening up. Please, if you're in a low-lying area that is notorious for flooding, if you are in a mobile home or a manufactured home, if you are in the coastal areas, if you are along the rivers, please seek higher ground. Please seek a friend, bunk up. Please go to a shelter. Please pack up your pets, their medicine, their food, your medicine, your food, any valuables you have, your information, passports, and your driver's license and anything, and make sure you have enough for a few days. This is very serious. Please, if you are elderly, if you have friends or neighbors that are elderly and they're thinking that they're going to hunker down, please put them in your car and take them to a shelter. All children need to be in a shelter with their pets, and this is, I can't stress enough, this is not a dress rehearsal, this is the real thing. So we are here. We value all lives in Manatee County. I'm speaking on behalf of all the citizens in Manatee County. Please stay safe and please be calm and be civil to one another. And again, my cell phone is 941-685-5368. That's 941-685-5368. Call me if you need shelter, if you need a place to go. Thank you, and stay safe. Thank you.
Dr. Bensi is going to talk about our health needs in Manatee County.
Thank you, Sherilyn. Good morning. I'm Jennifer Bensi. I'm your health officer for the Florida Department of Health Manatee. Currently, there are 73 clients in our special needs shelter. We have over 500 registered, so we anticipate they will be arriving later today, and we encourage them to do so as soon as possible. Manatee Memorial Hospital is now closed. We will not be taking any more special needs registration calls today because transportation needs to get those existing clients to the shelter before the winds pick up. Also, for those of you who haven't gotten your medications yet, please, we encourage you to go to the stores that are open today early till noon probably. So go now. If you have prescription medications that you do not have yet, they can give you a 30-day supply. Finally, please be safe when using generators to avoid carbon monoxide poisoning. This is a horrible, preventable problem that we see in all disasters. Thank you so much.
I'm not going to be able to provide too many specific questions. Please give me those questions so that we can answer them at the next press conference. But what? Yes?
Questions about shelter.
All right, that was our update from Manatee County and Manatee County Emergency Management Chief Sherilyn Burris, who you just saw. Also, Dr. Bensi from the Manatee County, Florida Health Department, and even Commission Chair Robin DiSabatino came up and actually offered her cell phone.
Yeah, offering her own personal information to help you guys out there if you're looking for shelter.
Yeah,
she said give her a call.
So that's really putting your money where your mouth is right there on her part. So just some updates from them here. They were saying, especially for citizens hoping to evacuate or considering whether to evacuate, once winds reach 45 miles per hour, emergency services will not be going out anymore in Manatee County. We can only assume it's a similar situation for Sarasota County. So this is that time to make those decisions. And I think we're going to take a quick break.
Yeah. Let's head out to a live shot in Miami this morning, where people are preparing for Hurricane Irma.
It's been about a month, and I can honestly say I've seen the change in me. I went from being a depressed girl who didn't want help to this happy, caring girl who loves helping other people. I just really hope that people that went through what I went through get the help that they need, because their story is important and they are loved. Thank you so much for everything.
This is important news for women who were administered chemotherapy intravenously for breast cancer and then suffered permanent hair loss. Some women administered the breast cancer chemotherapy drug Taxotere have suffered from permanent hair loss on scalp, eyebrows, and eyelashes. If you suffered permanent hair loss after chemotherapy for breast cancer, call the law offices of Davis & Crump right now to find out if you are eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call now. Operators are standing by.
If you're only hungry for a slice of apple pie, why buy the whole pie? And you certainly wouldn't want to pay for an all-you-can-eat buffet. So if you don't use your cell phone that much, why get charged for a plan that's too big, or even an unlimited plan? Luckily, there's still a wireless company that shares your values. Welcome to Consumer Cellular. Our average customer pays about $25 a month for everything they need. Many pay even less, as plans start at just $10 a month. You'll get a straightforward bill that's easy to understand, with no surprises, and all the attention you deserve from our friendly customer service team. No wonder Consumer Cellular has received J.D. Power Awards for highest customer service. Plus, if you're an AARP member, you'll receive special discounts. It's easy to switch. You can even keep your phone and your number. So stop paying for more than you need and start your 30-day risk-free trial today.
Call 800-457-2317.
Go online or visit a Target store today.
just looking at some updated information here. I'm going to show you some new storm surge maps that have just come down from the National Hurricane Center. Again, if you are just joining us, the track of this storm has shifted west once again as of 11 o'clock last night. And the forecast that I am about to show you follows the basically the consensus of the model guidance, which are now really kind of narrowing down on a landfall somewhere around Fort Myers, Naples, in that location after crossing the Florida Keys. There's still room for error in this forecast track, and there's still the possibility that the forecast might improve. Also some possibility that the forecast might get even worse if the storm stayed just offshore. But as of now, this is the best information that we have. 130-mile-an-hour winds. It has weakened just a little bit because of interaction with the Cuban coastline. Its motion is to the west, which is a good thing because that takes it closer and closer to the Cuban coastline. It is forecast to put on the brakes at some point and stop its westward motion. That point will be a critical point in our forecast because as it stops, it will then start to begin moving to the north. And when it begins that motion to the north, we'll have a much better idea of exactly what the eventual landfall location might be. Saturday at about 2 a.m. in the morning, tonight through tomorrow morning, it'll be closing in on areas around the Florida Keys. Probably as a Category 4 storm doing devastating damage to the Florida Keys, even though they do have excellent building codes. And then lifting northward up toward our area, possibly moving right over our area, possibly as a Category 3 storm. Currently, we are working with storm surge estimates that are as high as 10 feet. We are looking at on Sunday at about 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the storm system getting close enough to us that we will see strong tropical storm force winds. By 2 o'clock in the morning, Sunday into Monday, we will likely see some of the worst of the weather start to begin. And that will linger into probably around after daybreak, midday on Monday. So we are going to go through a prolonged period, perhaps as long as 12 hours, of high tropical storm force winds and possibly a 10-hour period of hurricane force winds or hurricane gusting winds. So that's what's in store for us. Then after the storm system lifts north, the winds shift around back to the west, and we have the potential for seeing some flooding storm surge along the area coastline. And then as it lifts further away, we start thinking about the recovery process. These are the latest possible storm surge maps, inundation maps. These are new maps that are drawn up every 4 hours by the Hurricane Center once a warned area needs them. And of course, we need them now. So these are brand new, and they show for the first time the amount of water above your toes, basically. And if you look along some of our area coastline, you see that we have many places shaded in yellow here. The yellow is greater than 3 feet. That's right along the coastline. And then in inland areas, we have greater locations where you're going to see Cortez and other locations right along the immediate bay where you're likely to see 3 feet above ground level. Well, it gets worse, actually, the further south you progress and the closer to the center of the storm you become. We're now looking at areas around Siesta Key, especially where the coastline sort of concaves. You see that? That is an area where there's potentially a 5 foot above ground level height of storm surge possible, basically inundating Siesta Key. That is with the current storm surge maps. Then as you go further south, areas around rivers. And by the way, this does not take into account freshwater flooding. If we get a 10-inch rainfall, this situation could certainly become worse. Around the mouth of Charlotte Harbor, certainly some very serious issues with many places seeing an inundation of 5 foot above ground level. That's the current thinking. Of course, these maps will be updated throughout the next 24 hours. Let's go back to the anchor desk.
All right, thank you so much, John. Let's go check in with Stephanie Roberts, who is at the Manatee County Emergency Operations Center. Good morning, Stephanie.
Good morning. And this is really central command for Manatee County, where everyone is here together to keep the residents of this county safe. Everybody gathering information, helping people who need to be evacuated get where they need to go. Now, just a few minutes ago, we heard a news conference with Emergency Management Chief Sherilyn Burris, and her big message to everybody is take shelter now. We have a very narrow window for about, maybe the next 12 hours at most, where it is safe to be out and about. So, recapping where we are in Manatee County, it is a mandatory evacuation for flood zone A. They want you out. They want you to go to a shelter. The shelters are filling up, but the big headline now is we are in life-saving mode. Go with your pets. You will not be turned away. They want these residents to be in shelters and out of harm's way. So that is all to be taken very, very seriously. We were also told this morning that there is now a voluntary evacuation for flood zone B. Manatee is going to do that in conjunction with Sarasota County. So again, it isn't mandatory, but the fact that they are highlighting it, they want residents in flood zone B to really take a serious look at their situation and consider that they may very well be safer evacuating to a shelter. Other updates we have here in Manatee County is that Manatee Memorial Hospital is now closed. The patients have been evacuated, and that is due to flooding concerns. And other than that, they are really encouraging anyone with special needs to get to a shelter as soon as possible. They have a list of who has special needs in the county, and there are still many, many who have not reported to shelters at this point. So that is the very latest as we continue to monitor the very changing situation with Hurricane Irma right here at Emergency Operations in Manatee County. Back to you in the studio.
All right, and Stephanie, real quick, they mentioned there's going to be a certain point in time where if you're still at your home, emergency services is not going to be able to reach you. Is that correct?
That is correct. They've made it very, very clear here that once there are sustained winds of 45 miles per hour, emergency crews are not going out. It wouldn't be safe for them, and it simply isn't safe for anybody to be out and about. So as we get toward later this evening, that's kind of it. If you're in, you got to hunker down because nobody will be coming to help you. In terms of the beaches, there is a firm 6 p.m. deadline. The barrier islands, such as Holmes, Anna Maria, Bradenton Beach, at 6 p.m., nobody will be allowed back on those beaches. So again, that's that mandatory flood zone A evacuation. At 6 p.m. it is done, and at 45 mile per hour winds, everyone's on their own.
All right, Stephanie, thank you very much. She mentioned the beaches closing, and to be clear, that is traffic onto the island that is closing. The bridges off the island are not closing at any point. You should be getting off of those islands if you can, but they're not going to actively close the islands to traffic coming off of the island there, so nothing to worry about that. Also, a quick update, if you are evacuating your home, bring 2 forms of identification, either your driver's license and something like a utility bill could work. The reason being, you don't need it to get into the shelters, but in Manatee County especially, I only know because we were reporting from there yesterday, you will need it to get back into your home. They'll have law enforcement stationed at some of the communities, some of the evacuation flood zones, and you will need to present that to get back into your neighborhood.
Yeah, definitely a good idea to keep those on hand. Also, if you can find some cash, you want to have cash on hand as well, because once the power does go out, those ATMs are not going to work. Your card is not going to work either, so it's a great idea to at least carry a decent amount of cash on you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now we are going to take a live look from Sarasota County. Governor Rick Scott was there a little bit earlier, wrapped up a press conference. Bobeth Yates is standing by. Bobeth, what can you tell us about the governor's message?
Well, it was very clear and concise. Governor Scott said if you have not gotten out and you're in an evacuation zone, you could be on your own until after the storm. He was very specific. In fact, we have been telling people that the county said you should be out if you're in evacuation zones A or the barrier islands or mobile home, that you should be out by 8 p.m. Governor moved that time up. He says you need to be on the road now, and by noon it'll be too late. He says once the winds start coming in our state, it's going to impact everywhere, and that we possibly could not have first responders to you in time to get you help. So they're advising everyone in those evacuation zones to seek shelter at one of their locations in your county or close by. Here in Sarasota, there's 4 shelters already open. Neither of them are at capacity. So far, we know about 840 people have evacuated. 6 more shelters are expected to go online. 3 in North County, 3 in South County, Again, we don't know the exact locations of those shelters yet. They don't want to release that information because they don't want people to rush those locations before they are ready. But Governor Scott, again, being very decisive, saying this storm is something unprecedented. It eclipsed Andrew, what has been named one of the worst storms in the state so far, and they're saying that this is eclipsing that, so they're preparing for devastation and telling people to just be ready just in case the storm comes to your area, and evacuate if you have been placed in an evacuation zone. Again, those zones are Zone A, trailer parks, in mobile homes, or the barrier islands. And again, I'll keep you updated as information comes in. We know there will be another press conference here around noon from the county who will give more specifics to Sarasota County and what's being done. We're expecting them to give us more details about those shelters that are coming online and possibly updates about the storm. Governor Scott also mentioned one more thing, that if you needed, they need volunteers. About 1,000 volunteers are being asked to come forward, nurses and just people to help out at the different shelters. And if anyone is a nurse that's off duty and can help, they're asking for your assistance. Again, I'll bring you more information as I get it. A press conference coming up around noon from the county.
All right, thank you so much, Bobeth. Can you clarify for us whether there have been any updates on those evacuation zones in Sarasota County?
No updates on those evacuation zones. What we know, again, there's 6 opening up. Of the 6, 2 will be for those with special needs, and the other 2 will be pet friendly. Now, we're told the special needs ones were actually organized where Sarasota County officials were on the phones for the last couple of days, setting up and making arrangements for those who needed special assistance, if it's being transportation or some sort of medical assistance. So we know 2 of those shelters will be for those with special needs and special assistance. Again, 2 pet friendly, but they're not releasing the locations of those shelters because they just don't want people showing up before they're ready. The National Guard is going to be operating those shelters and getting everyone in place, and we've seen some of the National Guard officials arrive already, seen some trucks passing by this area. A couple of them are parked outside, but other than that, they're not giving us the locations of those 6 new shelters that are supposed to be coming online. We were originally told they will be online at around 10, but so far that does not look to be true.
All right, thank you so much, Bobeth. We appreciate you being out there and bringing us all this updated information. John, I wanted to ask you real quick, how does this Hurricane-Irma, compare to that of Charlie or perhaps Andrew?
Well, Andrew's, at the time, the building codes for Dade County were not that great. So as Andrew came through, it created a lot of devastation. But Andrew actually was a smaller storm in terms of the entire wind field. Okay. So this will affect a large area, a much greater area. And in terms of Charlie, you know, I haven't done the math, but just using a visual in my head, you could probably put 4 or 5 Charlies inside of this storm. Yeah, okay. I mean, this is a massive 400-mile wide storm. Charlie, as you recall, did a lot of damage, but only in a very narrow strip. Charlie was a very fast-moving storm that moved inland quickly. It didn't produce a lot of rainfall. It produced virtually no surge, and it was a very small, tightly wound eye of about 20 miles in diameter. Here we're talking about a storm with maybe a 60-mile wide eye as it approaches the coast. Plus, one of the things that gives concern to forecasters is that as it gets closer to us, there is the possibility that interaction with land will actually cause it to weaken. Now you might say, well, why is that a concern? Well, if it weakens, the wind field expands, and as the wind field expands, you get a larger fetch of west wind over Gulf waters, and that could actually make the storm surge issue problem worse.
Oh.
Right. And we're keeping a very close eye on this throughout the morning. And I just want to mention real quick, the updates that don't make it maybe necessarily on air, we have an app out there, a My Suncoast app that you can download for breaking news, that shelter information as it becomes available, sandbag if those will be distributed today or not. A lot of the breaking news surrounding these preparations are coming out on the app, so keep a close eye on that for us, you know, as well today. And John, you and Steve are certainly working hard on some weather updates as well throughout throughout the day.
We are, Steve, right now updating our social media pages back there, and I've been getting some viewer emails as well, and I've gotten some fairly good questions.
Okay.
One viewer writes in and asks, you know, I don't understand what Governor Scott is saying when he says, if you're in an evacuation zone, get out now. I'm in Zone C, but only Zone A is mentioned in this news. Does this mean that I should wait to evacuate to a shelter?
It's a great question.
It is a great question, and the answer to that is yes. I think what Governor Scott was referring to was that there are some mandatory evacuations for Zone A and some voluntaries for Zone B. So if you are in those mandatory or even voluntary evacuation zones, then you should get out now. But if you are not in one of those zones, then you should not. You should wait.
Yeah. And also to be clear, Manatee County just issued a voluntary for Zone B. So that's a mandatory for Zone A, voluntary for Zone B in Manatee County. But Sarasota County hasn't issued that voluntary yet. They are still mandatory for Zone A, as well as mobile homes and low-lying areas throughout the county.
Good point. Thank you. Another question is, our home has an elevation of 17 feet. We are in a B flood zone, and let's assume the storm surge gets 10 feet, which it does. Does it mean that if you're at 17 feet, you are safe? Of course, you run from the water, you hide from the wind. Now, when we're talking about storm surge, it gets kind of confusing, because on top of storm surge, you have to add tidal height. So a 10-foot storm surge at high tide, which I looked up just a moment ago. I believe that as you wake up on Monday, the high tide will be at about 2+ feet. So let's assume that we got a 10-foot storm surge, which we are not talking about right now, but is in the realm of possibility. Then we are looking at about a 12-foot above ground inundation of water. There is a new map, and I've been showing it on the show this morning from the Hurricane Center, called Possibility of Inundating Water. And what that shows, actually, thank you, Jim, what this actually shows is the height of the water above ground level. And with that, you can see, according to the scale, that there are many places, especially around the mouth of Charlotte Harbor, especially through Rotunda and the Barrier Islands, where you are looking at perhaps as much as, at this point, 6 feet above ground level. So some tremendously high wind flows there. Let me just jump to the end of this graphic and show you some possible storm surge inundation for Longboat Key. There you're going to see, especially in areas of the Keys or our land features where there is a concave shape to the shoreline. That's the areas where the water will pile up, and the areas where we'll see an increased problem. A lot of 3-foot to 5-foot inundated areas there. Siesta Key, also one of the places where inundation is possible, especially on that concave shoreline just to the south of Siesta Village. And then as we look further to the south, we have to consider those areas that are in tributaries and rivers. We're not even looking here at the possibility of a 10-inch rainfall. This is just strictly from wind-driven waters. If you get, of course, some of these rivers that empty out, Peace River, Myakka River, Little Manatee, that also will be under the influence of perhaps a 10-inch waterfall, rainfall within their basin, then you know, you could have some bigger problems downstream as they empty out into coastal regions.
All right, thank you very much, John. We're going to take a quick break, but not before taking a live look at Miami right now as they are preparing for that weather moving in towards the state. We'll see you with more updates after this break.
This is an important message for anyone with Medicare. You may be eligible for an all-in-one Medicare plan that combines hospital, medical, and prescription drug coverage together with extra benefits that may include dental, vision, hearing aids, and much more. Some of these plans have a $0 monthly premium regardless of your income. That's right. For one low plan premium, or in some cases a $0 premium, you may be able to get coverage for your hospital visits, doctor appointments, prescription drugs, routine dental care, eyeglasses and contact lenses, hearing aids, and possibly more. Today may be the first time you've heard about this type of Medicare plan. The advisors at the Medicare.com helpline are licensed insurance agents who will explain more when you call. Call now to see if you qualify. Call the number on your screen now. Call now to see if you qualify for these benefits. You worked hard for your Medicare. Now is the time for your Medicare to work hard for you. Not affiliated with or acting on behalf of any government agency or program.
Attention! Royal Seas Cruises has just announced their deal of the day, a $99 Caribbean cruise for 2 people. This amazing cruise deal to the Bahamas is only available to the first 500 callers who register in your area today. So get ready to write down this number and act fast. We know that the best type of traveler is a repeat guest, so we're offering this $99 Caribbean cruise to prove it. That's $99 per couple, including your stateroom, all your delicious meals, full spa, live entertainment, 3 kids clubs, and more. Come see why we were voted one of the top 10 best overall cruises by Cruise Critic. We're so sure you'll enjoy yourself and become a repeat customer that you're getting this deal of the day for the unbelievable low price of just $99 per couple. But you've got to act fast. Pick up the phone and be one of the first 500 callers to take the Caribbean cruise of a lifetime for just $99 per couple. Call right now or log on to royalcruisenow.com.
Call 800-906-0489.
Welcome back. Evacuations continue this morning across the Suncoast as people are still trying to make a mass exit out of Florida.
This deadly monster storm is just raging towards the coast here in Florida and grows even stronger overnight. ABC's Stephanie Ramos has the latest from Miami.
Today, Hurricane Irma is inching closer and closer to South Florida with winds of 160 miles an hour. The storm now shifting significantly further west. The eye of the storm with its sight on the Florida Keys and Tampa. The National Weather Service tweeting, "This is as real as it gets. Nowhere in the Florida Keys will be safe."
We are running out of time. The storm is almost here. If you are in an evacuation zone, you need to go now.
More than 5.6 million people have been asked to evacuate, many of them living in low-lying coastal areas.
Cars for miles.
As time runs out, people are still trying to escape the storm. Traffic so bad on the 3 main routes out of South Florida, some people abandoned their cars because they've run out of gas. Those trying to get out by air finding themselves stuck. Fort Lauderdale's airport closed. Miami International suspending all flights. Those who tried to get in hoping to get a last-minute ticket stranded and bussed to shelters.
We spent hours trying to find flights and it's just been awful. We haven't slept.
Some Miami Beach residents are counting on their storm-resistant structures and are staying put.
We have enough food and water to ride out days of electricity, days of no electricity, and we have hurricane-proof housing. It's a brand new built building with cement.
Here in Miami, we're starting to feel the outer rain bands of Irma, the storm expected to reach South Florida by tomorrow morning. Stephanie Ramos, ABC News, Miami.
All right, lots and lots of people wondering what this newest update is meaning for us here on the Suncoast. Can you give us some information?
Well, we're waiting actually for the new update from the Hurricane Center on the forecast track, which will be very important. That comes in at around 11 o'clock. Sometimes it's a little before then, and of course we'll be on the air right here with you till we get that. But we did get an intermediate, they call them updates, at 8 a.m. that showed a weakening of the storm system. What does that mean to us? Not a lot, to tell you the truth. A little weakening of a storm this large has really very little meaning in the short term because it's still a far distance away from us and it has a lot of really warm water to go over before before making it closer to the Florida coastline. Again, if you're just joining us, a shift in the model track since yesterday at 11 p.m. has caused the track to shift east, and so that there are now several larger problems for us here on the Suncoast. If you look at threat issues from this storm system as it approaches, I guess you would probably have to classify them as storm surge, high winds, and rainfall. And in fact, rainfall and the winds may be higher than the actual storm surge in terms of affecting more people. Now, I don't want to minimize the new storm surge guidance, which is showing some storm surge inundation of as much as, well, higher than 6 feet above ground level in some locations, especially upstream of Charlotte Harbor and also on some of the concave beaches of Sarasota and Charlotte counties. Here is a infrared satellite imagery of what looks like a pretty good shear taking place on Irma. You'll notice some drier air that has kind of wrapped in around the the most extreme western quadrants of the storm system. That's a good thing. That would help weaken it. Plus, I think they're getting a little interaction now with the land that has a due westward motion on this eye, which is good because if that continues, that takes at least part of the eye and puts it over land. Of course, you don't wish any problems for the inhabitants of Cuba, but certainly it's better news for us if we can continue to weaken this storm. The eye wall kind of now filling with cloud cover, and so another indication of a weakening system. The eye itself, rather, filling with cloud cover. Still have some intense spiral bands that are now starting to move into areas of Key West. We're getting some gusts down there of tropical storm force already. So with 130-mile-an-hour winds, the forecast track carries it on a path that will eventually stall as it moves westward. Once it stalls, that will signal the beginning of a more northward turn, and we'll be watching that very carefully, probably occurring later today or overnight tonight. And then as we head into Sunday, we'll start to watch that system begin to lift northward and move into the Florida Keys as we get into the first half of the day on Sunday. Then as we head into probably midday Sunday, we'll start to see a marked increase in the wind speeds around here. And this is going to be a period of time where the winds will at times howl. And it is quite likely that that will be for a duration of perhaps 10 to 12 hours that we will see strong, gusty winds. The worst of the weather looks like it's going to come at night, and that's an awful time for really bad hurricane winds to come at night because it just adds to the anxiety of the whole situation. But that is what it looks like through Sunday night into early Monday morning, lifting just north of us. Then once it gets north of us, the game's not over, because as it lifts through the day Monday and into Tuesday, we have to worry about the onshore wind flow still producing the possibility of some surge as the winds turn west, plus the heavy rainfall beginning to swell some of the rivers and streams across the area. We'll update you on the forecast and take a look at what to expect coming up more as we continue our coverage and bring you the new 11 o'clock advisory during this newscast. We'll go right to break now.
All right, thank you very much, John. Well, images continue to pour in, not just, from Florida, but the islands down south of our state, showing that sheer destruction that Hurricane Irma has left in its wake.
That's right. Check out this video from the Caribbean island of Barbuda, home to less than 2,000 people. A photographer doing a tour of that scene said it looks like a garbage disposal. It looked like some of the houses were imploded on. Layla Santiago takes us on the ground and in the air above the once island paradise that is now a nightmare.
Once a Caribbean getaway surrounded by turquoise water, now demolished, left desolate, unrecognizable by Hurricane Irma. This is the shocking view as we fly onto the island of Barbuda. Jerome Teague says hurricanes are a way of life here, but not this one.
This is the worst one I've ever seen.
And this could get worse as the hurricane-ravaged island braces for Hurricane Jose. Those who braved Irma now arriving in Antigua, evacuated to escape a second major hit. Elvis Burton is determined to protect the place he's called home for 12 years, at least what's left of it. He evacuated but returned to find a home no longer livable, savaged by nature.
It's my home. I have to try and save it.
Even more are determined to save lives, get people out of Barbuda, save the people who seem to have lost it all. It's hard to imagine that an island now rubble, an island home to nearly 2,000 residents, could get any worse than it already is. But the Prime Minister has said 95% of the buildings are damaged, and it will be quite the rebuilding effort. More than $100 million to get this the way it once was. Barbuda looks like a war zone?
Like a war zone. Everything is blown out.
This is the wrath of Irma, now on the move. Irma has shown her strength, the reason so many fear what is headed to Florida. Layla Santiago, CNN, Barbuda.
Certainly a devastating situation there on the island of Barbuda.
Yeah, they really took a hard hit down there, and then the Keys are kind of in the sights, so to speak. So serious situation.
Let's take a live look in Miami this morning. Looks like there is, as you can see, as people are preparing for that record storm.
Everything all right?
Actually, you know how Tom had knee surgery? Sure. We found out Brad's been taking his painkillers. And it turns out he's been doing it for a while.
Most people don't know what to say about drugs, but we do. Visit us at drugfree.org.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-683-9262.
If you're only hungry for a slice of apple pie, why buy the whole pie? And you certainly wouldn't want to pay for an all-you-can-eat buffet. So if you don't use your cell phone that much, why get charged for a plan that's too big, or even an unlimited plan? Luckily, there's still a wireless company that shares your values. Welcome to Consumer Cellular. Our average customer pays about $25 a month for everything they need. Many pay even less, as plans start at just $10 a month. You'll get a straightforward bill that's easy to understand, with no surprises, and all the attention you deserve from our friendly customer service team. No wonder Consumer Cellular has received J.D. Power Awards for highest customer service. Plus, if you're an AARP member, you'll receive special discounts. It's easy to switch. You can even keep your phone and your number. So stop paying for more than you need and start your 30-day risk-free trial today. Call 800-457-2317, go online, or visit a Target store today.
Welcome back. For those deciding or trying to decide whether to evacuate today, we have tons of new information coming in. You may not want to try a hotel room here in the area.
That's right. We called more than 20 hotels in Sarasota and Bradenton, and they are all booked until Monday. Hotel owners that we spoke to are stocking up on supplies and getting those backup generators that they need. Some hotels are also lifting their pet policies, so if you are heading to a hotel, you may want to call first and check their current policy.
We have plenty of water, flashlights for all the rooms, glow sticks for all the rooms, plenty of food to get us through the next week and a half. You know, everything that we can imagine, ice, generators, things of that sort.
Now, if your hotel is in the evacuation zones, you most likely will be asked to leave for a shelter or another location.
All right, now we want to take it over to John Scalzi, the hardest working man in show business, for another update on our weather. John.
I think we're all going to be working very hard, as will everybody on the Suncoast, in preparation for this storm today. Today is the last good day for our weather, it looks like, to prepare and get ready for the eventual landing of this storm system. We'll take a look at the infrared satellite imagery here and let you know that it does look like the eye wall itself is starting to decrease in intensity just a little bit as it falls, as it begins to fill in the center with, generally speaking, a kind of complete. Hold on a second, I have to change the battery in some of my equipment here. Just let me do that for a second. Okay, I got that. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. You can see the eye wall itself beginning to fill, an indication of the kind of interference of the ground area of Cuba beginning to exert its influence on the circulation around the system, plus some drier air in advance of the system beginning to wrap into it. That's a good sight. Now here are some visible satellite pictures, and you can clearly see the cloud shield beginning to envelop. You can also, I think, see perhaps a little widening of the eye wall structure, which means that perhaps it's expanding its wind field as well. Hurricane Hunter aircraft checking that out and giving us an update here coming up pretty soon. We will start to see the influence of this system through South Florida, continuing throughout the morning hours, and some very heavy weather moving into Key West later today, and Marathon, anywhere from Marathon to Key West, actually. These are the spaghetti models, the computer models. Let me explain how these work. There's like 4 or 5 dependable computer models that we all rely on in order to make an accurate forecast for where this system goes. You then take those 4 or 5 computer models and you tweak each one of them just a little bit by changing some of the initial conditions. You change maybe the strength of the hurricane at the time you start the model. You change maybe the strength of the high pressure ridge which is steering this whole system just a little bit. And you see what the models do given all of these plausible scenarios. Well, the shift has been clear from the East Coast to the West Coast, and it continues to kind of push a little further to the West Coast. The reason I mention that is it is so critical, the position of the hurricane as it begins to make that northerly turn. I explained this earlier in our broadcast and coverage, and I'll explain it again. Imagine this is the forecast track of the system as it lifts north, right? Well, if you just move the position of the hurricane itself a little bit, it has a great influence. Let me see if I can do this again, get this lined up. It has a great influence on the eventual track of the system, right? So we're waiting with great interest to see when the forward motion of this Category 4 storm ceases. Because when that happens, when it stops, when it becomes stationary, it's a signal that the storm system is going to begin lifting northward. And at that point, we'll have a much clearer idea on the actual landfall. Now, given that, I want to tell you that the influence of this system is far and broad, and it will have an impact on us no matter if it stays offshore or if it moves further east, which is a less likely scenario. We'll certainly see tropical storm force winds here. We'll probably see some hurricane force winds. The likelihood of that is pretty good, and we're thinking right now as we head into Sunday night into Monday day, the onset of wind speeds in the vicinity perhaps of 80 to 100 miles per hour with gusts as high as 140. Not out of the realm of possibility, and that's for a lot of the viewing area. Of course, the further to the west side of this forecast track it moves, the better the situation for us. So we'll continue to monitor that very carefully. There is a new forecast track coming out in just a few minutes, around 11 o'clock. So stay with us, and we'll have that forecast track for you just as soon as it's released from the Hurricane Center. Back to you.
All right, thank you, John. And we are expecting power outages in our area, no matter, I guess, what the path of this storm may be. But the good news is Florida Power and Light is in the area, and they are standing by.
That's right. Dozens of line trucks are staged at the Sarasota County Fairgrounds, ready to begin the repair process once the storm clears the area. The company is warning customers to be prepared to lose power during the hurricane.
This is the storm of the likes we have not seen before, not only here in the electric industry in Florida Power and Light, throughout Sarasota, throughout all of Florida. So we don't really know exactly what's going to happen, but we do anticipate that outages will occur, that they will be probably lengthy. In addition, instead of just potentially restoring service, we actually believe that we will probably be rebuilding out parts of our system.
FPL says customers can report outages using the company's mobile app, and they'll attempt to restore power when wind speeds are less than 35 miles per hour. We also have a link to their website and their app on our website at mysuncoast.com.
Well, the Suncoast medical community is also doing what it can to provide emergency services during this historic storm. Sarasota Memorial's main hospital, ER, and trauma center and its emergency room in Northport will be operating 24 hours a day with a full staff. However, several of the hospital's urgent care facilities have closed or will close for that storm, including the one on St. Armand's, which closed yesterday. Others will close by 4 p.m. Today and remain closed on Sunday. Other outpatient services will be closed through Monday, and the hospital is postponing all non-urgent elective surgeries through at least Monday. Manatee Memorial Hospital will be closing because that facility is in flood zone A, evacuation zone A under a mandatory evacuation currently. The hospital is working to move most of its patients to Lakewood Ranch Medical Center. The emergency room, however, is closed, and the hospital expects to shut down by Saturday evening, this evening, until that storm passes.
There will also not be any mail delivery today on the Suncoast. As you can assume, the U.S. Postal Service has indefinitely suspended all operations. If you have any questions about your mail, you can call 1-800-274-8777. We also have a link to their website as well on our website at mysuncoast.com.
All right, and we're going to take another quick break here, and also another live look at Miami, Florida, as that storm continues to work its way through the state. You can see that weather rolling in. Stick around. We have more coming up.
Attention, Americans eligible for Medicare. Are you getting all the benefits you're entitled to? Did you know there may be money available to lower your medical prescription costs? Call Health Markets and we'll tell you if you qualify.
Hi, I'm Dr. Martin Jeetsi. It's a new Medicare year. That means more changes and more confusion. The key question is, what can you do now to ensure you get the care you need in the coming year?
Call Health Markets today. You may qualify to save money on prescriptions. We'll help you find plans that may cost less, cover more, and could even lower your prescription costs to increase your savings. We help you find all the benefits you're entitled to, and we do it at no cost.
Make sure you have what you need to get the care that's right for you.
Find out if you qualify to receive extra help with your prescriptions. Call the number on the screen now. Representatives are standing by.
Attention blood thinner users. If your loved one took Xarelto or Pradaxa and suffered serious internal bleeding, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. The widely prescribed blood thinners Xarelto and Pradaxa have been linked to a number of dangerous side effects, including internal bleeding, gastrointestinal bleeding, kidney bleeding, stroke, brain hemorrhaging, and even death. If you or a loved one suffered any of these injuries after taking Xarelto or Pradaxa, call right now. You may be owed significant compensation from the manufacturer. Thousands of blood thinner users may have been exposed to serious risk by these dangerous medications. If you or a loved one took Xarelto or Pradaxa and suffered serious internal bleeding, call right now. Call Nightline Legal to speak with an experienced attorney for a free consultation. If we don't win, there is no fee. There are time deadlines to file a claim, so don't wait. Call right now.
Call 1-800-554-3987. Again, that's 1-800-554-3987.
All right, welcome back. We are talking about the updates as they're coming in for the storm here, trying to keep you guys as posted as possible on some of that stuff. According to the Englewood Water District administrator right now, to protect the water and sewer systems and prevent some possible harm to Englewood, the Water District employees, the water service to all Manasota Key, both in Sarasota and Charlotte County, Englewood, and residents served by Bosilla Utilities and residents of Knight Island will have water service discontinued at 5 p.m. today. Sewer service to Manasota Key will be discontinued soon thereafter. Service will resume once Hurricane Irma has passed and it is safe for district employees to assess the damages and perform bacteriological testing. There are no boil water notices at this time. Media will be notified should a boil water notice be necessary. If you have any additional questions or concerns, you can please call the Englewood Water District.
I think that is exactly what we've been talking about all morning, making sure that you have your water, you have your bathtubs full, your sinks full, whatever you need in order, because at one point people are going to start shutting off power lines, shutting off water, and that is an exact example.
These are valuable hours. These are valuable hours right
And
now.
Speaking of, if you are hunkered down at home, there are a lot of do's and don'ts that people need to keep in mind. ABC7's Bo Beth Yates has a list of some of those most common mistakes that could make or break your hurricane recovery efforts.
We're all familiar with tips like turning down your fridge and refrigerator in preparation for power outages during a storm. But there are some storm safety misconceptions that can cause more harm than good.
Tape really isn't going to help. All it's going to do is keep the glass in one piece when it breaks.
Chris Hartman from Kingsway Ace Hardware is talking about one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to storm readiness.
That is, taping your window to protect it during the storm. Hartman says during his 20-odd years in the industry, he's seen people make the taping mistake as well as a lot of other ones.
Opening your window is not a good idea at all. Once the wind gets in your house, it's going to blow out other windows and ceilings and soffits and everything.
But there is a right way to secure your doors and windows. Handyman Ralph Mercier said you should cover them with metal shutters, and if shutters aren't available, plywood will also work.
The good way is to use the clips and then clip it, and then you push it up against the wall. But we only have 12 of them, so we got to use, like we used over here, we had to use screws.
And does that work?
That works.
And while properly covering your doors and windows will help to secure your home or business from the hurricane-force winds, Hartman says some of the other biggest mistakes made during a storm are human-related errors that can be avoided.
Flashlights definitely. Candles are not a good idea. They put out heat, and if you knock them over, they're going to start a fire. Never put a generator inside of a house. You'll die from carbon monoxide poisoning.
Coming outside during the storm is another major mistake. Officials say you should stay indoors until you get 100% all clear because you may be in the eye of the storm. Bobeth Yates, ABC 7, your Suncoast News.
As Bobeth mentioned, those are a lot of the do's and don'ts, and one of the biggest ones that I've heard from people is opening your windows, but I've heard that's not the best idea.
Yeah, you know, I think that old wives' tale kind of evolved from what people used to say to do with tornadoes.
Okay.
You know? And I was actually asked that question by a resident here on the Sun Coast. Should you open one window in order to equalize pressure in your home? No, absolutely not. Hopefully your windows are boarded up if you had shutters and were able to do so. But no, the rule is that only a 5% breach in the envelope of your home can cause enough pressurization in a large storm to do structural damage to the home. So what that basically means is if something hits a window and breaks it, even one window, it's a problem. As you park your car in your garage, a lot of folks have said that if there is an inward pressure that wants to compromise the garage door by pushing it inward, and you don't have a hurricane garage door, then perhaps just parking your car in the garage and backing it up just to the point where it just kisses the garage door and stopping. That's important. That's very important.
Duly noted.
That can actually help fortify a garage door if it's trying to blow in. Does nothing, of course, if the garage door is blowing out, and many 50% of the doors are compromised by the garage door blowing out.
Right.
But, you know, at least it's a help as you park your car in the garage.
Can I ask about one more wives' tale? Tape on the windows?
Tape in the window does absolutely nothing for you.
I knew it!
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Fortunately not. It does absolutely nothing for you, so don't even waste your time. Do other things more important.
There you go.
And as people are being under those voluntary evacuations and the mandatory evacuations here on the Sun Coast, lots of people using different apps. Can you explain some of those apps that are beneficial to those people?
I just got a viewer email saying that they evacuated to the north. We were talking with each other a day or so ago, and that's what he did. And he said absolutely that the app weighs because it's kind of a community involvement app where people can post saying, oh, there's some congestion up here. There's not.
Real time, too. Like
and
real time updates.
Exactly. That it was very helpful to him in avoiding some of the congestion and maybe going around some of the congestion. So that's something you might consider. It's a free app, I think.
Right, it is.
And Gas Buddy is apparently also very helpful if you're trying to locate a gas station that has gas. Again, another one of those apps where community is allowed to make suggestions, I guess.
I've used both of those apps, even when it's not a hurricane storm coming our direction. They're great apps, and they're very helpful, especially now in a time of need.
And keep an eye around noon, because as Governor Scott mentioned right here in Sarasota County, he thinks around noon those evacuation routes are going to get pretty clogged out there. And I mean, he's in the know. He is the governor of our state. Right. So if that's his idea, then you probably, especially around that time, want to keep an eye out on those roads.
And he also said that if you are heading north, be advised that there are still gas shortages out there.
Exactly.
And that could be a problem if you don't have a full tank. And at some point later on, they're going to have to stop pumping.
That's right. I think he even mentioned that some of the fuel ports are closed and will not be returning some of those tankers until after this storm passes.
Right. So what do you do today? Today you hunker down, you find which of your rooms is going to be your safe room in case you need it. You are going to finish up all your last-minute errands and runs to the store, and you're going to call ahead and make sure they have what you want before you go. And you're going to be safe in your homes by this evening, and then we'll wait and see how things progress during the overnight. As by tomorrow morning, we could have tropical storm force winds around here.
Right, and say maybe prepare to camp out a little bit if you're not already, if you don't have your kits.
That's always how I look at how to prepare for a hurricane. You prepare as though you're going on a one-week camping trip, wilderness camping trip.
There you go.
Yeah.
I even know one of our directors who said he unpacks all the camping gear, has the generator, has the cooking stove, the sleeping bags, everything you would need to go camping.
Yeah.
So you got to treat it maybe off-grid for a while. At least you need to prepare that way.
Yep. And even if you have a generator, you know, you have to consider that there's the possibility that you could run out of fuel. You know, that's certainly a possibility.
Exactly.
And especially if you have one of those big generators that supplies the whole house, unless you're on a natural gas pipeline, and if you're using propane, you've probably got, you know, maybe a 3 or 4 day supply, and that's it.
That sounds like a lot of time limits there, and then those sources of energy.
Plan ahead.
Well,
so do we need to do some weather now?
Well, it is almost, I was going to mention to you, it is almost 10:45 here, and you guys are waiting for an update.
For an 11 o'clock update, I've got Steve in the background kind of waiting on that, checking on that, and he's going to update me when that data comes through. It should be any moment now. But let's recap what we've got going on so far. The eye of the storm is beginning to, what do you got, Steve?
It's just skirting the coast of Cuba.
Right, we've got the eye of the storm beginning to make contact now with the island of Cuba, which is a great thing. Well, I say it's a great thing. Obviously, we don't want the good folks of Cuba, the residents there, to suffer. But it's good for our forecast as that eye wall becomes interrupted. The circulation over land could be a benefit. There's still some pretty decent mountain ranges here, and as that eye continues to the west, it will encounter more and more land mass, which is never a good thing for the strength of the system. Hurricane hunters are flying nonstop through this system until it makes landfall. They are not coming out of the air. So they will be giving us updated information on the strength of this storm to the Hurricane Center on a continual basis, which is helpful. So what are we waiting for? We're waiting to see this forward motion stop. Once that forward motion stops, then we can anticipate a turn to the north with time. And there may even be just a little bit of a northward motion beginning. I'm seeing that right now as I talk to you. You and I are seeing this together. Perhaps just a little, it could be a wobble, it could be the beginnings of a northward motion. We'll have to wait and see what the hurricane hunters find, but we'll be watching with great interest as that progresses through time. Rain showers now beginning to occur over the Florida Keys right now in South Florida, some of them producing some pretty heavy inundating rain. Because of the wide swath of the rainfall that's associated with the circulation of this storm, and because it'll be coming at us over Gulf waters where it can continue to enrich its moisture supply, we've got a big concern in terms of freshwater rainfall and what that would do to our already saturated and swollen rivers. There is certainly the possibility of some more river flooding down the road. And in fact, that's a large concern now as the track has shifted a little bit more to the west. You can see the eye wall kind of filling with cloud cover here as that eye wall kind of fills, or not the eye wall, but the eye itself, that center portion around the eye wall, begins to fill with cloud cover. Kind of an indication that perhaps we're seeing an expanding eye and a decrease perhaps a little bit in intensity of the storm. Still, it is forecast to reemerge out over warmer waters and then begin to strengthen. We've got some pretty close to tropical storm force wind speeds throughout South Florida right now, and in many places having already exceeded tropical storm force. Wind gusts in the Keys have already exceeded tropical storm force in terms of gusts. We're still good across our area, and I think today won't be a bad day at all. The storm system lifts northward, and computer models are kind of clustered around a solution that tends to be further to the west. So maybe the eye of this storm will be pushed, or the track of this storm will be pushed a little bit further to the west. I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen with the 11 a.m. update, which should be coming any moment, actually. The clustering of the good model still put the storm very close to the Florida coastline. And I'll tell you what, even if it moved a little bit further offshore, you know, it might be good in terms of wind speeds. It would certainly not be all that great in terms of, no, we're still at the 8 a.m. forecast, in terms of storm surge. So 130-mile-an-hour winds continuing on a track that takes it up toward the Florida Keys. Keys residents are going to have a time of it as they head into tonight. I think they're going to see some pretty heavy winds. They're going to see some inundating rains. And then Sunday, by around 2 in the afternoon, that storm system will have moved over them and beginning a trek that takes it toward the west central Florida coastline. Perhaps moving on a line that takes it very, very close to us, the eye of the storm. Now, bear in mind, still a large cone of error here. That track could go, that red center line, don't focus on that too much, could go all the way over to the west side or all the way over to the east side, although I think it's probably more likely all the way over to the west side, and it would still be considered an accurate, good forecast. That's what the error looks like at this point. By Monday afternoon, that storm system will be lifting north of us. So Sunday night into Monday morning, during the nighttime hours, will be the worst of the weather for us. And at that point, we could see some wind gusts, in excess of 140 miles. We could see sustained winds at 80 to 100 miles. All of it depends on where that storm is and what the strength of the eye wall is at that time. Those are just some of the concerns. There are other concerns that extend beyond just the strength of the storm and the location of that center line. They go out well beyond even this cone of uncertainty, the influence of the storm. And those include heavy flooding rainfall, they include tornadoes, they include storm surge, which increasingly looks like it could be a serious problem for parts of the Sun Coast, with as much as a 10-foot storm surge in a worst-case scenario, and certainly widespread 3 to 5 foot storm surge, if not greater, especially along concave areas of the shoreline. Waiting for an update from the Hurricane Center on this. Should be coming through in just mere moments. We'll bring that to you as soon as we get it. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you very much, John. Once again, just the hardest working man in show business. We're going to take a quick break, but first,
let's go to Hollywood Beach, where we have a live look this morning as Florida across the state preparing for that record storm.
This is an important medical announcement. Bard IVC filters have been linked to punctured veins and problems with migration. Anyone who's received a Bard IVC filter must receive medical monitoring and may be entitled to substantial compensation. If you have the Bard Recovery G2 or G2 Express filter, you are in a class of patients who should be compensated for some expenses. Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. This call is confidential, there's no cost, and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to people who should have been warned about the risks of the Bard IVC filters. Call the IVC Filter Hotline if your loved one has received an IVC filter and experienced a vein puncture or required medical monitoring. You must call now.
Call 800-329-3089. 800-329-3089.
$40 million. That's the number of free phones still available and the number of how many Americans can still get prescriptions free.
Free could be wonderful. That's why I'm still working at 77 years old to pay off my prescriptions.
I needed to have a prescription filled and I had to leave because I couldn't afford it.
Call now and see what's available for you. Free prescriptions. Over 10 million people get prescriptions free, and the program has expanded so another 40 million can. Free dental. Over 15,000 dentists have provided over $330 million in free dental work. Free cell phones. 40 million free cell phones are still available with free minutes and more.
Free cell phone would change my life right now because it is something I cannot afford to get.
Medical supplies like back braces, knee braces, and diabetic supplies may be covered too. The free RX Plus hotline has saved callers over $12 million on their prescription costs. These free programs are now available to 40 million more people. Call now.
Welcome back. You're taking a side-by-side look here at a live picture of Miami, and then that's us, our own tower cam here at ABC7 in Sarasota. You can see the difference already in the weather as that storm makes its way towards the state. You know, Hurricane Irma stirring up there south of our state right now, but you can see weather changing already from South Florida to us here in Sarasota.
Somewhat the calm before the storm right now as we all anticipate, you know, Hurricane Irma making her way here. Just a matter of a few hours, a few days, so we'll see.
We sure will. Well, the city of Northport has opened 2 shelters for residents in low-lying areas, Heron Creek Middle School on Price Boulevard and Northport High School also on Price Boulevard. Both opened around 9 o'clock this morning. People going to shelters are advised to bring non-perishable foods, drinking water, sleeping bags, medication, and forms of identification.
Now, out of concern for the safety of their patients and staff, Inglewood Community Hospital will begin the evacuation of patients this morning. Any patients presenting to the ER before noon will be screened and treated appropriately according to their medical condition. Now, once all patients are transferred and the ER is closed, hospital services will be temporarily suspended. Updates and reopening plans will be posted at inglewoodcommunityhospital.com. Inglewood Community Hospital is located at 700 Medical Boulevard in Inglewood. Most of their patients are being transferred to Doctors Hospital in Sarasota on Bee Ridge Road. Family members of patients at Inglewood Community Hospital are also being contacted regarding that transfer.
And all the public beaches in Sarasota County are closed due to that storm. You can check out some video taken earlier today. Those crews using heavy equipment to move lifeguard stands to higher ground so that they won't get washed away by the waves and expected storm surge. Manatee County beaches are also closed as part of this mandatory evacuation. Officials caution everyone to avoid trying to watch the storm from the beaches. It is just too dangerous at this time. And an ABC7 viewer sent us this, this sweet story of calling this man a hero for helping her before the storm.
That's right. Dottie tells us she lives in Bradford Manor, and yesterday an electrician named Daniel came up to help put up a client's storm shutters. However, he then started helping others because people didn't know how to put them up, and much of the day helping before going to take that of his own needs. Dottie says she wouldn't have been able to get her second-story shutters up without his help, showing that we really are hashtag. I'm going to start making that a hashtag. Hashtag Suncoast Strong, Sarasota Strong, Bradenton Strong. That is the big thing here on the Suncoast. We all are in this together. We will be right there with you throughout this storm.
And maintain that humanity.
Yes.
Maintain it, because when things, you know.
And you know, I saw that so much after Charlie. When you saw the devastation and the fact that people were going for just weeks without electricity.
Yeah.
You saw the people just giving and taking truckloads of supplies and helping deliver, helping to offload trucks. I mean, it was just a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll see that again if the situation warrants around here.
Yeah. I even saw a sign yesterday when I was driving here to work that said, "Stay strong, Sarasota." It was outside of the Waltz Fish Market, so stay strong.
That's a great thing. Still waiting. It should be just moments now. Steve, have we got the new update yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. I'm sure they're trying to make sure that they're fine-tuning it correctly.
But we have lots of people sending in questions. You can head over to our Facebook at abc7.com, or ABC7 Facebook rather, and send us any questions that you have. We will try and answer them in the most efficient way possible. But I know people are emailing you questions.
They are. You know, we've got a couple of good ones here. One says, how far inland will the storm surge go? Well, it's kind of early to say that for sure right now, because it really does depend on the strength of the storm system as it approaches, its angle of approach, and they're running computer models every 4 hours as they get a better determination on where eventual landfall will be to kind of fine-tune exactly where that happens. But, you know, theoretically, the storm surge, especially up tributaries and bodies of water like Venice Inlet, could go miles up inland, you know. That's certainly a possibility. And even right now, we're showing that inland of Charlotte Harbor, along the Peace River and the Myakka River, a couple miles upland, we'll see, upriver, we'll see some flooding perhaps as much as 3 feet above ground level. So it's a terrible situation, and we'll be revising and bringing you better numbers as we go. Leaving my house to join my sister locally, should I turn off all power except my refrigerator? Yes, that's exactly what you should do. Cut off all electrical equipment. In fact, Wouldn't even be a bad idea to unplug them from the wall.
I did that exact same thing yesterday before I left my house.
Good idea. Or if you have one of those circuit breaker strips, to not but to switch off that circuit breaker switch would be a good thing.
Graphics on the update. It's not available on the website, but take the graphic from WSI and we can.
Okay, let's take a look at this. You're looking at it exactly as I am. If we can, let's take a look at the updated track. This is 125 miles per hour. Okay, so it has decreased in intensity to a Category 3 storm now, which is great. We were talking about that earlier, how we thought that that was beginning to happen. The west motion still continues at 9, which is a good thing. It still looks like the forecast track carries it up toward Marathon as a Category 4, and basically the track looks pretty much unchanged, maybe nudged slightly more to the west, and basically still a huge threat to the Sun Coast. Coming through here as perhaps a Category 4 hurricane. So, you know, we are looking at a very, very dangerous situation here on the Sun Coast. This is real, folks. This is go time. We are getting a smaller and smaller cone of error, and we all need to, at this point, finish up our last preparations and I think psychologically prepare ourselves for the possibility that we could have a devastating storm move right through our area.
All right. Well, ABC 7's Bobeth Yates has been spending most of the morning with the emergency planners at the Sarasota County Emergency Operations Center. She joins us now live. Bobeth, what's the latest?
Well, we're waiting for another press conference. Sarasota County officials are going to be giving us the latest details about what they are seeing on their radars and what they're planning for this area at about noon. So we'll be covering that live. Now, what we also want to update you on some other information. There are 6 new shelters that are coming on board. Of those 6 new shelters, 2 of them will be pet friendly. The other 2 will be for those with special needs. Now, officials say that they have been calling people with special needs to make arrangements for them to see if they need a ride or if they have any extra medical issues that need to be handled, and they've been working on trying to get those people all the things they need. And I guess they're advising people now to check on your neighbors. If you know your neighbor has special needs, just to ensure that, you know, they have not missed anyone, that you just contact them to just see if they got a ride or need transportation or something towards the shelter. Earlier today, Governor Scott was here and he gave a press conference also telling people that if you need help evacuating, there is a number to do so, and you can call your local authorities and they will help you if it's gas or if it's transportation, whatever it is. They say they will help people that need to get out. So we're just advising people again to make the necessary precautions. As you just heard John say, this is a pretty big storm, and it's been referred to as something that will eclipse Andrew. So everyone is preparing right now. Evacuations have been ordered for Zone A, those who live in mobile homes, and also those on the barrier islands. So if you are in those areas, officials are saying make sure you evacuate, because if they cannot, they will not be able to come and get you if the storm starts and things get worse, because it will be dangerous for the first responders. Well, we'll be here continuing to monitor things, and as soon as we get the details about those 6 new shelters that are coming online, I'll bring them to you. Other than that, we'll keep posted and wait here for that press conference that will be at noon, where Sarasota County officials will update us on all the details on what they're getting and what the plan is for this area. Again, I just want to also mention none of the shelters are at capacity yet, so if you are in those areas that are being evacuated, you might want to get there soon.
All right, Bobeth Yates, thank you very much. As you heard, an update from Sarasota County around noon, and we will have that here on television, also, I'm sure, across our platforms and Facebook page.
Yeah.
So as we continue to gain confidence in the forecast track and shift it even incrementally toward the west, the rainfall chances go up for the peninsula of Florida, and now rainfall estimates are including some isolated amounts of perhaps as much as 20-inch rainfalls across the state of Florida, and certainly that would include our area, which of course will lead to a large amount of inland flooding, as well as the problems with the storm surge that we may have. There's your updated forecast track of Irma. This is as of 11 a.m. just moments ago, released from the Hurricane Center, and the track is basically the same, although the hurricane force winds are again, looks like we could even have a 3 or a 4 hurricane around here as that storm system lifts north. Too early to tell, but something that we definitely have to plan for.
All right, thank you so much, John. We will have again that live update from Sarasota County Emergency Center at noon. We will see you then here on ABC 7.